नमस्ते। ॐ नमो भगवते ॐ नमो भगवते। Today we are continuing with the advent of the new race part 2. This would be the first episode. When I looked at the glorious past of my country, many beautiful characters of human beings flashing across my mind, those who have truly performed the real duty of human beings and given true value to their lives on earth. Among them, Dhruva, Prahlad, and Narad were the great devotees of Narayan who attained the highest of the manifested divine through their constant remembrance and tapasya. As well as Sri Radha, Sri Chaitanya, Mirabai, Sri Ram Krishna, Kabir, and many others are the legendary devotees of Lord Sri Krishna in the spiritual history of India. They all would remain forever at the pinnacle of higher human hierarchy for glorifying their devotion, surrender, and identification with the divine to the utmost level of human capacity. Let's take up the story of Prahlad here, who was representing a consciousness of ardent devotion for the Supreme Incarnation known as Lord Narayan. We know all these stories. He was in such a unification with the Lord that he cannot live or breathe even without Lord's name in his heart. That was the state of consciousness in him. Whereas Hiranyakashipu, his father, was an asura in the form of man and an extreme antagonist of Lord Narayan. He, throughout his life, was most egoistic and was the representative of ordinary dom consciousness of this ignorant world, who never accepts that there could be supreme power in this universe superior to him, or whom he needs to be subjugated or ever bow down. He was a conqueror, subjugator, and enslaving the humanity by force of arms, wanted to keep the entire world kingdom at his feet. He wanted the humanity to worship him instead of believing much of the existence of the divine in this manifested world. Is it happening on earth today still or not? We can understand who is Prahlad, who is Hiranyakashipu as on today. Seeing his anarchical rule over earth and basically unbearable torturing and tormenting to Prahlad, Lord took the incarnation of Narasingha avatar as a furious and terror creature to finish the most powerful Hiranyakashipu and make free the earth from the torture, terror, rule, and dominance of ordinary consciousness of ignorant mind. He came to the earth in response to the ardent call of his dearest Bhakta Prahlad and accomplished his work by securing Prahlad, his representative. Prahlad is the soul of man, from the hands of the Asura Hiranyakashipu, who is the devil who rules through the ordinary consciousness, by establishing the fact that the divine is everywhere, in everything, in the form of consciousness. And hereafter his own Prahlad, who was representing the soul consciousness of man, will rule the earth happily to render joy and prosperity to the earthly beings. This story reflects the character representation of today's scenario, which is understandable. Now it is the crisis of survival on earth for human being. When the situation is shaking your very foundation of existence on earth, the present situation through this dark devil force, Hiranyakashipu, is examining again and again your faith and strength of tapasya that is done by Prahalad, by its terror of torture and torment, to examine that if you are strong enough with the divine power to survive on earth. Man was busy to struggle for his material safety and survival so far, but now one is to struggle for safety and survival of his life only through his inner strength, will, and prayer to the divine. All prevention and medication process may fail, but the faith of the supreme divine will never fail you. He himself will come down as he came for Prahalad. He himself will come down to save you from the reign of Hiranyakashipu, that is from this dark force, and release you from the enslavement of the dominance of ordinary physical consciousness which is ruling the earth so far. I will give reference of a true medicine contained in this mantra, which will definitely take care of everything of a man, and the best will happen to him, irrespective of his status, condition, and aim of existence. Only thing if he is open. When the human soul is engulfed by the descent of the night, in the densest darkness, Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri, only were safe who kept God in their hearts. Only were safe who kept God in their hearts. Courage their armor, faith their sword, they must walk. The hand ready to smite, the eyes to scout. Casting a javelin, regard in front, heroes and soldiers of the army of light. Savitri, Sri Aurobindo, in the descent of the night. So today, before we elaborate about these heroes and soldiers of the army in the advent of the new race, let's see how the predominance of ordinary consciousness is still ruling the earth and resting its best not to allow the influence of higher consciousness and a new world to manifest, which is already started living within us. The influence of the higher consciousness means the divine's influence. Resisting its best not to allow the influence of the higher consciousness and a new world to manifest, which is already started living within us. For the human world, lockdown is an emergence protocol. As a security measure taken during the emergence to prevent people from leaving or entering a particular location. Man is perturbed with the lockdown process. Indeed, it is approaching towards the lockdown of the prevailing system of the world, which is asking for a ban on all the old and absolute system, which has been the base of life and way of living so far for common men. But who has been devised this system of life? The ordinary conscious physical mind, with its highest reasoning and logic base, is trying to find the material happiness on earth. That is what has devised the system of life behind which we are running, which may not be required anymore for the progress of the humanity, because there are some part of the humanity who is aspiring for an immortal consciousness on earth also. There are many beings on earth who are living. They are coming to the earth to aspire for the immortal of consciousness. They have not come to make fun on the earth. So the old world, which has been dominating with its old habits and with the ordinary consciousness, is under the pressure of complete lockdown or shutdown to continue further. Many are not able to perceive yet that a new consciousness among a few as beyond man is evolving to form a new race, is already on the way to the new world. In this painful period of the earth, one can also hear the cry of the newborn world which is born. Those aspiring men who can come out of the clamors of the ordinary mind and its habits and ready to collaborate in the ascending mind of human journey can definitely participate in that new world. A poor student in the class takes a long time to understand a small issue also. Similar is the situation with the men today. But a good teacher always tries to illustrate and demonstrate several suitable methods according to the need of the circumstances to give opportunity to all deserving students till they come up to the task. Creation is made of joy. So the object of creation is to go on making new creation, to derive more joy and ecstasy. But where is that joy in the creation now? Why is the joy lost? Or how? It is only because of one reason and one word. The joy lost. Joy is lost because of one reason and one word. What is that? Separation. Separation, which is the cause of all unhappiness, pain, anguish, suffering, error, and corruption. This separation has completely taken man away from its original source of truth. If you separate yourself from the man source, usually you make error and then you make corruptions to adjust that. So this separation has taken man away from its original source of truth, consciousness, eternal life, light and bliss. Man has gone towards an opposite direction. So now we do have to have a deeper understanding. That is by a journey of reversal of consciousness towards unification, by which man will find its true existence through identification. But before that, we should know that we are separated from whom? Or what is that separation? What is the old system of habits which need to be locked down forever now? We are seeing the glimpses of now, but we have to undergo this process to learn this, that what is that old system of habits which need to be locked down forever now. So we should know separation between what? Creator and the creation. A mother can never separate her children, but children can ignorantly separate themselves from the mother. If they come to know the truth, then they will never keep themselves disunited from their real mother. That is what man has not been able to find its mother through his present knowledge. So ignorantly and desperately he has gone very far from the mother creator. He seeks everything in the creation except his own creator or parents. This is the misfortune and reason of pain and suffering of man in this ignorantly conscious world. This is a conscious world, but ignorantly conscious world. The creator or his own parents, everything is going on guess. Nothing is pure, crystal or clear or transparent. Everything is, entire knowledge is on guess. That is why it is called ignorant world or ignorantly conscious world. The creator or his own parents who can do everything for him is not being asked for yet. Neither man has ever tried to find his address to contact, because man thinks he doesn't bother much about the existence of anything which is not visible or manifested yet before him physically. If it is not visible physically, why to bother for it? So he bothers only about this physical world, which contains with transient stuffs and transient beings, with his family, with his friends. Those are all transient. One day he is busy with them only. With his physical consciousness. So whenever the attacks come from the invisible forces, like the virus you cannot see. So when the attack comes from the invisible forces and man pass through the situation like crushing circumstances, he has no means to face it because he has not gone beyond this physical consciousness yet. Man is not matured enough to understand that he is still completely under the dominance of physical consciousness, whose ruler is also an invisible force, and that is inconscient and ignorance is his ruler. He doesn't know that. The physical form of invisible, ignorant Asura force could be seen in man because he is using man as an instrument. In what form you can see physically? As ego, possessiveness like non-surrender, arrogance, opposite of humbleness, unforgetfulness, all kinds of falsehood and impurities, inconscience, darkness, and violence, which you can see with the man, which have enslaved man to rule over the world with these old system and habits. So we are under these influences, moving the hundreds and hundred years of our life, which we are not aware of it. Now we'll talk about another separation, which is very crucial and which cause of many things. That is what? Man and woman. Separation between man and woman also has to go now. Are they two or one kind with two variations? But for both we use the word man. Both are one species, and that is human being. Man became an extra with O man, and male became an extra as female for rest of the species on earth. So every species is having male and female. When part of the man or male species is given with the added aspect of unalterable unique formation for which they are prefixed with O. O means I owe you, means obliged to pay. So are prefixed with O and man, that became omen. So omen within man is obliged to nature and divine. No doubt there are some attributes which are very prominent and distinctive in women, such as beauty, sweetness, softness, cleanliness, and fundamentally the responsibility of motherhood in woman. Woman is actually man only, but its quality of goodness in behavior and attitude towards all, sweetness in the voice and words. When a woman sings a song, it's so sweet, so beautiful, so enchanting, which cannot be replaced by man sometimes, it seems. Affection and micro attention to all things around the subject, the attention of a woman. Finally, its features and beauty are the causes of special attractions, which stands her out as woman. Man has also some kind of prominence over woman, which makes him stand out in the front row. His strength, braveness, valor, capacity to create, to build, accomplish the invincible task to achievable. There are invincible tasks which man can achieve. Broadness of knowledge and wisdom, dominance over nature, breaking all the hurdles and barricades encountered in the path of progress, and a strong attitude of willpower, sadhana and tapasya in general. We see normally the man builds. In between them, one thing is very common in between man and woman is the interdependence on each other, which binds them through love and attraction. Nature has made it like this from the inception of life on earth as a law of ignorance. But the very object is to collaborate with each other to achieve new creation and new manifestation together. The very object of nature did, the ignorant nature did it, but the very object was to collaborate with each other for a new manifestation and for a coming together for a new manifestation for a greater purpose. But they have done exactly opposite of the purpose, other than few exceptions. Availing the opportunity of separateness, he claims this is for women should be there, men claim this should be there, this is my area, this is your area. So availing the opportunity of separateness, as and when possible, both men and women have tried to dominate and exploit each other as best as possible to destroy the original harmony, beauty, and love from earth. So we are attracted because of love, because of harmony, because of sweetness. But by exploiting on each other, we destroy all this. A structure of separatism and reservation, especially for women, then division among men as per scheduled caste and tribes, other backward castes, by color of men, racism, communalism like minority and majority, all these have brought extreme anarchism on earth. Nothing good can be done for anyone anymore. Because the creation of division and separation has given birth to conflict, fight and jealous among each other. Can the man go above this now? This is his old system of habit of ordinary consciousness, which he wants to continue by any means. He doesn't want to get rid of all this. He wants this confusion, he wants to remain in this. That is why all ordinary relationships have brought cracking and breaking wherever it is without the object of collaboration with each other for a greater purpose. Another separation. The governance system imposed on the mankind. Same man by separating itself, ruling another man by human law. We and you men, the big, those who are holding the positions and power in the country or in any region, so they feel we are ruling. So that is a separation, where man is still under the control of man-made law and orders designed by the human being with same standard of logic. It is just like taming the animals or bringing them under control, and the same principle of law and order is designed for all kinds of conscious, truthful people also. Whether you are like a criminal category or non-criminal category, it doesn't matter, but it is applicable to all. Sometimes a negligible error made innocently by a conscious person also draws him to same category of judicial and non-judicial treatment in the present law of the society. By which what happens? Which destroys the positiveness on earth and eliminates the existence of consciousness and also hampers the progress of consciousness on earth. So we feel happy for a negligible incident, for a negligible cause. Sometimes the people have beaten sadhus and finished them. So what happens? So we really discourage the courage of a higher consciousness on earth. The ordinary consciousness comes and brutally takes over whatever the higher consciousness, the moment they find any chance, if we can bring them under our law and order. That's what the judicial, non-judicial of this society of ordinary consciousness trying to trap, if anywhere, by any means, the higher consciousness has cropped up. Well, this system of ruling over the higher consciousness by the structure of dumb, ignorant physical consciousness forcibly also has to be dissolved. It is to bring complete transparency over inconscience and ignorance and to expose the naked truth of inconscient nature. The law and order from a higher base of truth should be used. So law and order should come from a higher base of truth, not from this common man who will dictate you with the law and order. Because he cannot perceive even what is truth and what is false. He cannot understand a person's character. Nothing. Well, nothing can remain in the darkness anymore, and light of truth has to penetrate in inconscience to repel all absurdity and distortions. The rule of punishment should be converted to the rule of love. which brings permanent change on the nature of human being. This quote, police, politicians are redundant for the truthful governance on earth. I don't know whether the normal people can bear this, what I've been talking about. But this is the truth is going to happen. So the entire system has to undergo a radical change with a new consciousness. It is not a reformation which is required over this redundant system, but the resistance of the ordinary consciousness, defying the existence of divine consciousness in everything and everywhere. The divine is there in everything and everywhere. Should be dissolved. The resistance of the ordinary consciousness, defying the existence of divine, should be dissolved and should be flexible enough to accept the new changes of life with new order and new consciousness of true spirit. The new race is preparing itself to become one without separation. The new race is preparing itself to become one without separation. In spite of dominance of the ordinary consciousness which is ruling the earth now, in spite of that, the new race is preparing itself to become one without separation, without gender, and without any kind of division. So the old system is in the brink of collapse in its own way. You can see to that. Man has to learn now how to surrender to the divine and to invoke the divine to intervene and take charge of his creation completely. Look at the man and other species, the relation, how they have separated. Superiority of man over other species and exploiting them, like killing them, capturing them, and making use of them for personal gratification and business are with malicious intentions of vandalism by man. Man could have used their products and byproducts and rest only after their natural death for further use. But instead of that, when an animal is alive, they just kill and use everything of them. But you can take its product, you can take its byproduct, like you use for the cows, the cow dongs, etc. We use the milk when it is alive. So when it is naturally dead, you use, there is no harm in it. But before it gets its natural death, who gave you the authority to kill him? Well, this is how the man is separated from other species. Like, so man could have used their products and byproducts and the rest only after their natural death for further use. But hunting them and killing them like barbarians and wild animals attitude is of course denying one's own existence and inviting it to happen for himself one day, and which has come now to him. He has forgotten that he is supposed to live with them harmoniously, not to deal them separately as inferior species, to be consumed by man, as if those were created for the use of man. Another very, very important as far as the separation is concerned. What is that? Work and existence. From the time immemorial, man has one principle to follow: struggle for his existence. That is how man created work to find ultimately his existence. So man has created work very intelligently, you can say, intuitively, intelligently, that to find ultimately his existence. Man seeks for existence in temporary and Man seeks for existence in temporary and transient life on earth, or permanent, eternal, or immortal life on earth. What is that? What for he needs he is looking for his existence? For a permanent life on earth, or for a temporary life on earth? For a mortal life on earth, or for immortal life on earth? And existence is nothing for him. What is that existence? For him actually is a recognition, stature of living as prominent as possible among men in earth. So that is how he finds his existence. The workload on man has finally led him to a mechanical way of daily life without any true eternal objective. The objective is not eternal, it's a mortal objective. Well, man has lost his own liberty in the name of sincere working. He's a very sincere worker. But sincere working for whom? To appease his master, only to find some comfort and material support in life. Finally, before he achieves these assignments, on the hope of enjoying a happy retirement life, he might have lost many things on the way, which even if he perceives also, is too late for him. So what he gets in life is an incomplete partial happiness. So finally man is deceived. By whom he doesn't know yet. Truly, there is no work on earth apart from earning something for one's simple living and finding the true existence beyond time and space. No one does any work here in its true sense. What we call as work in this physical world is composed of means to survive properly, securely, to prove our strong material existence on earth. Strong material existence on earth only we have composed the work. Look at the entire history of the world and analyze it. You will find that man has spent whole of its time firstly collecting his living, then to fulfill his compounded desires, and then fighting wars and making revolutions, whether it is for business, competition, acquiring land and property, kingdom and country, or for freedom of life, etc. That is what he has defined his work here on earth. As we know from the scriptures, basically the work is devised in the attitude of tamas, tamaguna, rajas, rajas guna, sattva, sattvic guna. But the real work is done behind the scenes by the divine. By the divine alone, which no one knows, and as it is not in the surface for the mankind to see or understand even. For example, when Sri Krishna, the immanent divine, came to the earth, he has to finish lot of asuras, one after another, to establish a higher truth in humanity, was considered his main work. There were a few chosen surrendered to him, like Pandavas or many, were the instruments of the divine through whom he brought the victory of the truth on earth. The history reflects to us the victory of Pandavas over the Kauravas in the war of Kurukshetra. Indeed, behind the scenes, entire war was fought by Sri Krishna only. His Sudarshan Chakra, which was seen truthfully through the inner eyes of Ghatotkacha, son of Bhima. The world is also popularly known as Karmakhetra, and life here is meant to face Kurukshetra, which symbolizes the field of karma. That is what all the time the avatars and vibhutis have showed to the mankind in their own lifestyle and attitude on their incarnations on earth. We don't know till today who brought victory for us in reality in the First World War and Second World Wars and the independence for India and Asia. Which divine hand was leading the world or humanity for the victory of truth through all contingencies of destruction by the monstrous dark forces at the time of wars and independence. If you go through some of the important deliveries by some of the important people of the world, you will understand there are forces which were working behind the wars, behind the independence of any country. So which divine hand was leading the world or humanity for the victory of truth? Through all contingencies of destruction, there are some forces which would have destroyed the earth at that time, which we do not know. We just take it granted because we are small human beings, we live. But if you will go into the deep of your consciousness, depth of the world forces, then you will realize that there could have been a destructions by the monstrous dark forces like Hitler, etc. You see from the surface Hitler, but you do not know what was behind Hitler, which forces was working behind Hitler. at the time of wars and independence. What we see in the history is the record kept by the ignorant mind. We take Hitler, we take Gandhi or whoever, but if one can see through his inner eyes or perception, then one can find easily the divine behind the scenes acted or did his karma for the earth to get victory over the forbidding dark forces and invincible asuras. These asuras are invincible, no human being can ever win over them. But we do not know that the divine force which has acted behind the scene, which is as a child doesn't know what the parents are doing. Similarly, the divine will always be, and we have never looked for it. The ordinary consciousness of mind has never looked for it like a child. So, what work we are showing up today? That man tells always, I'm busy in work, no time, no time. So, where is he trapped in the name of work? I am quoting from Sri Aurobindo to explain why men need essentially the spirituality. When it is very convenient to enter at this juncture, it is an opportunity at this juncture of crisis of the humanity, which can save everything and bring an eternal joy to this precarious world situation. So I'll just quote. Let's try to understand deeply. Spirituality is in its essence an awakening to the inner reality of our being, to a spirit, self, soul, which is other than our mind, life and body. An inner aspiration to know, to feel, to be that, to enter into contact with the greater reality beyond and pervading the universe, which inhabits also our own being, to be in communion with it and union with it, and turning and conversion, a transformation of our whole being as a result of the aspiration, the contact, the union, a growth or waking into a new becoming or new being, a new self, a new nature. Sri Aurobindo in the Life Divine. Again he is telling, it's also very significant, a spiritual evolution, an evolution of consciousness in matter, in a constant developing self-formation, till the form can reveal the indwelling spirit within us, is then the keynote, the central significant motive of the terrestrial existence. Sri Aurobindo from the Life Divine. So far, whatever exposition I have delivered in different installments and series of talks, I have tried to decipher the content of the rule of ordinary consciousness as precisely as possible. It was a very elaborate things, but I've tried to synchronize it as best as possible from the perspective of the upcoming consciousness of the new race. So a new race, how it looks, this ordinary consciousness, from that perspective I've tried to decipher all my exposition. So the next talk on the advent of the new race, part 2b, this was part 2a, but part 2b, or the secret of the new race, it will be, would decipher the new consciousness. This talk about the ordinary consciousness is over. We'll make a new journey now to a new consciousness, a beautiful world, a wonderful world. So with that aspiration, I will again pray. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve shantu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Thank you. Namaste.